That I was told I would never walk again, every week I've had a target. The first target was to sit up in bed unaided. I did that within a couple of days. The next one was to be able to shuffle down to the bottom of my bed. That took me a week to do that, but I need something every week to target. So for the past 3 months I've had the Manchester 10K. So I've been in the gym, I've been swimming, I've been on the race chair. Whether I'll get full feeling back is hit and miss, but I've got movement which I was told would never happen.
But if I take you back to that awful night,
Yeah.
I mean, you had to wait a very long time before you got any kind of medical attention. Do you feel lessons have been learnt or not? Or do you feel there's still a lot of work to be done?
Oh yeah, well, you know, I was promised the truth in the Kerslake report, you know, and you know, to read that, it was hard, because you're thinking, are the thoughts that I've got and the visions that I've got, am I making them up? You know, are they make-believe? Because this didn't happen. This stuff that I'm reading, it's like it's a different episode. It's not what happened that night.
What did happen?
Well, you know, obviously we know the terrorist detonated a bolt bomb. You know, 22 of them hit me. The two main ones, one that severed 2 of my main arteries, and one that hit me in the back and left me with a T10 spinal injury. So I was paralysed on the floor, but I had to watch my daughter dying in front of my eyes. And as a father, as a loving father, you know, to see your daughter dying in front of you as you're dying as well, it's that's a vision that I'll probably never get over. You know, and I feel guilt. You know, when I have it. You know, why did I put us in that situation?
But are you satisfied that that wouldn't happen again this very day if there were an attack?
No, I mean, you know, you see it all over the country. You see recently with the Greenfell, you know, people have been let down. We haven't got the right equipment. People didn't know what to do. And it's the same with here, you know.
Well, when you talk about people, you're talking about the emergency services.
Yeah.
Because
you know,
they didn't come in for 90 minutes?
Well, we think it's between 45 and 50 minutes. Now, we're not talking about, I mean, my life was saved by a first aider and a security guard. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't a policeman, it wasn't a fireman or a paramedic. You know, Paul Harvey, the paramedic that looked after me in the ambulance, who I've just recently met, you know, I owe my life to. Now, I know 3 paramedics came into the foyer, but, you know, there was critical equipment that wasn't there. The first aiders were using first aid pouches with plasters and scissors that they would normally use for teenagers because they're wearing the wrong shoes or they're dehydrated.
But there was concern there might be another bomb, and that is said to be why they didn't come in. Is that right?
Well, they've said all kinds. They think there's a shooter, there was another bomber. You know, what was it? My daughter had a blanket put over her to suggest that she'd died. Now, if it wasn't for me seeing her breathing and being able to stay alive myself and awake, she won't be here.
You feel that there hasn't been enough probing of why that decision was made not to come in while you were dying on the ground?
There's been none, and I say it's disrespectful, and you can say I get angry about it because, you know, my daughter and myself could have died. You know, my wife Gabby could be without a husband and a stepdaughter, and I'm not having, you know, just somebody to say sorry, it won't happen again. Well, it will. I've been very vocal about what happened. I've not gone into detail because I was promised by Lord Kerslake and Andy Burnham, who sat in my house and promised me the truth, and I trusted him with the work that he did with Hillsborough. You know, I did have reservations, but he came to my house and promised me that the truth would come out. So again, you know, when I got that report a couple of days before you guys got it, I was dumbfounded.
Martin Hibbert, thank you so much for talking to us.
Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you very much. Well, earlier I put some of those points to the Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham. I started by asking about assurances he and Lord Kerslake gave to Mr. Hibbert and whether the truth will ever emerge.
Come out. There's just no doubt about that. I've been involved with other tragedies where families have been left searching for the truth, and that's just wrong, and it won't happen here. The Kerslake report has given us some of the truth, but it couldn't give us all of the truth because the inquest has to be respected. So obviously when the inquest happens, and that will of course be difficult for the families, that will give further answers that perhaps couldn't be provided by Lord Kerslake. He was limited by what he could or couldn't do.
But one of the things he says, look, look, there wasn't, the emergency resources weren't there, specifically emergency equipment. And worse than that, he didn't feel that many of the medical people were up to it. I mean, they were left, him and his daughter, who was terribly badly wounded too, were left for 50 minutes before anybody came to them.
And I have sat there with Martin, and that's just a terrible, appalling thing, isn't it, to countenance. I think as the Kerslake report, I mean, I can only, obviously difficult judgments were made in that moment. The police were first there, and we all felt at that moment in time that this possibly was a Paris-style attack. And I think that lasted for a couple of hours, that fear that we were dealing with not one bomber, but a multiple marauding attack. And I think it was only 1 o'clock gone when I was kind of begun to be reassured by the authorities that wasn't the case.
But would it be different if there was a next time?
Well, that's what the Kerslake report was looking at. Are the protocols too rigid? Do we need to empower our first responders to be able to take more common sense judgments in that moment?
And what's the answer?
Well, as we know, the fire service stuck rigidly to the rules and didn't attend the arena, and obviously that is a major issue and one we're dealing with. So the question is, how to get the balance right. I think we're often shaped by the last atrocity that happened, and we think that will be exactly what the next one will be. But of course, that's not the case. Each incident presents its own reality. And I think that was the big learning point from the Kerslake report. And I understand fully how Martin feels. I hope, well, I'm pretty certain the inquest will give him more of the answers that he's searching for.
There's one other very big aspect, and that is that a man known to the security services, with a Libyan background, having come from a war zone, somehow managed to just get into what was already quite a secure area, the arena, and do what he did.
Well, we had the Anderson report that looked into the handling of intelligence, and it's a very difficult thing, isn't it, to know that there was some specific intelligence that wasn't taken forward. He was on the radar of the security services, but not enough, you might say. So there are difficult learning points there. When terrorism is more likely to be lone wolf, homespun, I think we need a different arrangement where the national bodies work with local agencies, and that's why I've suggested and put forward Greater Manchester as a pilot to the Home Office, and they've accepted that. So we'll be working on a new pilot to handle intelligence.
800 people were wounded, injured, some of them horribly. What do you think tonight's event will do for them? Do you think in a sense that it enables them to feel still part of the citizenry of Manchester?
I certainly hope so, John. The Bishop of Manchester spoke very eloquently about this in the cathedral service, saying that they will forever be part of the story of Manchester. And like him, I can say that they will never be forgotten. We will always do our best to look after them. Going forward, this city will also ask the difficult questions about what more we can all do to tackle the rising extremism that is a feature of our times, and that's something else that is an important part of my job as mayor. I don't want anyone to think that we just do the easy things and avoid the difficult questions. We are always going to use the strength of this city to ask the difficult questions too.
Mayor Andy Burnham, thank you very much.